Welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, science fiction, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And today, Chad and I are recapping and discussing A Court of Thorns and Roses, Book 1 in A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. All right, Chad.
Whew.
You just finished this book.
Like 45 minutes ago.
That's so exciting. So let me get this all out on the table for everybody. I read all 5 of these books less than a year ago, and I'm not reading them in full for these episodes because I've got so many other things to read. This is very fresh in my mind, though. I don't know how it couldn't be. You know? So the synopsis is enough for me. I'll be able to have the same caliber conversation as if I'd reread the books. And we're doing the full recap and everything. So you can sit back, relax, and listen to Chad and I go on about these really, really fun, awesome books.
Oh, so fantastic, man. I don't know if anything, like the line between like class and like smutty is like a really gray one. And she waltzes down it. Sarah J. Maas waltzes along it so beautifully.
Yeah, Sarah J. Maas rocks. You know, she kind of has like this attitude of, yeah, it's Beauty and the Beast. Fuck it. You know, like, yeah, there's going to be 3 tasks at the end, and it's going to be, you know, a riddle where the answer is love. Who gives a shit? This is awesome. Yeah. Like, let's go.
She doesn't go out of her way to like not be a little tropey. She's like, oh, she like doubles down on it.
Yeah, I know. It's really, really
cool.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, just reading it, it's like, if anything else, you know, Sarah J. Maas is having such the best time of her life writing these books.
So much fun.
It just drips off the page how into it she is. You know, like obviously writing a book is a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and I'm not trying to say that Maas didn't have her frustrating days, but she's writing exactly what she wants to write.
Oh, to the word.
Yeah. to having the main character be named Feyre, which sounds an awful lot like Fairy.
Yeah, right. And it's even like an ancient word, the queen later says. I also want to, before we get into the summary here, just read the last paragraph of her acknowledgments, which I just thought was just really cool. It says, and lastly, to my husband Josh. She's thanking all the people for who are meaningful to her, who had a part in the book. This book is for you. It's always been yours, the same way my heart has been yours from the moment I saw you on the first day of freshman orientation at college. Considering the way our lives mysteriously wove together before we ever set eyes on each other, I have a hard time believing it wasn't fate. Thanks for proving to me that true love exists. I am the luckiest woman in the world to get to spend my life with you. And it was just like really cool. I was like, man, should we all be lucky enough to have someone write such a paragraph about us, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the really alluring things about these books is there's so much love in them. You know, like that's like the heart of it. And, you know, I mean, I think one of the main kind of themes in this whole series is like sacrifice for that love and the lengths that we'll go to for each other, for these relationships that we've cultivated, not only with, you know, lovers, but with friends too.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for you to see kind of Feyre's growth over the course of these books. And there's other characters that you're going to meet that are just as important as Feyre, and you're going to fall in love with them. And they're all very distinguished. There's a whole it kind of turns into, you know, it stays in Feyre's point of view for the most part, but it kind of turns into an ensemble. Cast. And they all love each other in different ways, and they all have different interactions and connections with each other.
It's very clear the center pillar holding this story up is love. And about halfway through it, I was like, what level of experience does Sarah J. Maas have here? So I started looking into her, and she has a very healthy marriage, and I was like, boy, they must really enjoy each other.
Well, there goes our chance of getting Sarah J. Maas on the podcast. We messed that up in 3 minutes, Chad. Nice job. Yeah, I would very much love to meet her and discuss like her process going into all this and stuff. I mean, these are the first romance books that I had ever read, and I'm still branching into the genre and stuff. I mean, I would definitely call these romance over anything. There are still fantasy books. There's still high fantasy, epic fantasy. If you wanted to like get down into definition land, I would say it fits the definition of epic fantasy. But
what's the difference between epic and high?
My understanding is that epic fantasy generally it has to do with like the stakes, you know. So like epic fantasy is like it's usually like the world is on the line.
Oh, okay. Like high fantasy is just it's in a world other than our own, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like
Okay.
I mean, that's a loose definition of it, but yeah, pretty much. And then like
Okay.
low fantasy would not be, but I think that some people would apply like a low fantasy series would be a an alternate reality that doesn't have magic or where reality isn't suspended. But
Oh.
I've heard it both ways, and I'm not really sure what the actual like what
So high world other than our own, made up by the author. Epic, the stake, the fate of the world is at stake.
that is my understanding of
Okay.
epic fantasy. So yeah, you know, Song of Ice and Fire or Stormlight Archive is epic fantasy. So I wouldn't call like the Farseer trilogy is not epic fantasy.
Right.
You know, I mean
Right. It is high
it's
fantasy,
high
but not
fantasy,
epic.
but yeah, and the stakes are high, obviously, on a personal and like kind of like a regional level, but it's not the world, you know, it's not
Right.
like like Wheel of Time is epic fantasy
Lord of
because
the
like
Rings, high
right,
epic
like
fantasy.
literal like Satan is rising up to destroy everything, and you know, but anyway, yeah, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is fantasy, and it's got a lot of fantasy tropes to it, which are just awesome to read about, especially through the lens of this kind of romantic plot that we've got going through here.
Yeah, the tropes never detract from the story. They only add to it. It's like she was like, I realize that I can't, what areas of the story do I want to really spend my time in making good? She didn't need to focus on some of those other elements. So just like throw a trope in there, make it a little bit unique to it. So it's her thing and then go from there, And she, in my opinion, her focus is wonderfully executed.
Yeah, I mean, this book is one of my favorites in the whole series. I feel like it doesn't get talked about too much. Like a lot of the focus for this series, at least specifically to the books, is people really like the second book quite a bit. A
Hmm.
Court of Mist and Fury, and then people really like A Court of Silver Flames, which is actually it's not really a spoiler. I'm just going to tell you because it's pretty common knowledge. But A Court of Silver Flames is from Nessa's perspective,
Oh,
Feyre's
really?
sister. Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
which is
Okay.
it's a very different book. It's a
Yeah,
very
I
very
bet.
different
We
book. Uh,
barely get a little bit into her mind at the end of this one. Like she's something other than the mean sister. Like
right.
barely a little in the end of
We
this
get to
book.
see some more of that, but oh sorry, Nesta, not Nessa. Nesta,
Nesta, Nesta.
Nesta. Yeah. I'm really glad that we're reading these together, or that you're reading them and I'm talking to you about them. I think we're gonna have some really awesome conversations.
For my first dalliance into romance, I feel I was given an excellent first look into it. In fact, a bar is set so high now that it might be unfortunate for any authors in the romance genre that follows this one.
I think there's some good stuff we're going to end up reading. You know,
Okay.
I've heard Katie Robert is really good. I read some Ruby Dixon, and Ruby Dixon is awesome. Amber Nicole is an author that I really want to read.
There's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot. It's out there. It's out there. I think that this is probably the most, as far as I'm aware, this seems to be like one of the most approachable, like stepping stones into the genre. You know, this is one of the more accessible because it is so. It's high fantasy. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's not like person moves into the big city and their boss like is a billionaire that's also into BDSM, and you know what I mean? Like we can get there.
Totally.
We'll get there together, Chad. But I mean like
Sure.
this
I'm happy to.
we got to progress up to that. And these books do get pretty steamy.
Oh yeah.
They definitely do.
Yeah, and I think they're just kind of getting warmed up in the first book. I
They
feel like
certainly are.
I feel like there's a lot more
It's really
that
fun.
Sarah has to offer.
You know, I was kind of worried like going into this, like, oh man, should I reread the books? But I'm going to definitely, as we keep going with this keep remembering stuff, and it's not going to be a hindrance at all. And I think it's really cool that I've read all of these and you haven't. So I'm like, I have all this knowledge of what you're getting yourself into.
Man, I've never had a book make me want to smoke so many cigarettes.
How do you
Dear
think the
Lord.
characters feel, you know?
Seriously, dude. I feel
There's a lot of tension. Yeah. But anyway, let's get right into it.
let's do it.
I'm going to do a recap just like we do with all of our other episodes, and away we go. The book begins with Feyre Archeron, the 19-year-old sole provider for her family, living near the border between the human and fairy realms. While hunting a doe in the woods, Feyre kills a giant wolf who is actually a fairy in disguise. The next day, Tamlin, the High Lord of the Spring Court in the fairy realm of Prythian, appears at Feyre's cabin, demanding justice for his murdered friend. Upon learning it was Feyre, he tells her that she can either return with him to the Spring Court or be killed as punishment for murdering the fairy. She chooses to leave her family and travel through the barrier with Tamlin. Arriving at the Spring Court, Tamlin promises Feyre safety and comfort and arranges for her family's needs in her absence. Feyre is a prisoner in all but name, but she eases into life at the court, noticing that all the Fae on the property are cursed to permanently wear the masks they donned for a masquerade nearly 50 years ago. Feyre finds a friend in Tamlin's second-in-command, a high Fae named Lucian. As Feyre adjusts to life in the Fae realm, she learns of the existence of a being called a Siriel, a truth-telling fairy which she traps in order to learn more about a dark force threatening all of Prythian. Later, this force is revealed to be Amarantha, the self-appointed fairy queen of Prythian and general in the war against humans 5 centuries past. Feyre accidentally attracts the attention of the evil Naga fairies, but manages to free the Siriel and kill 2 of the Naga before she's rescued by Tamlin. As time passes, Feyre and Tamlin grow closer, and a guarded affection begins to take root. Feyre explores the beautiful estate, and Tamlin provides her with art supplies so she can continue with her painting. One night, Tamlin brings home an injured fairy from the summer court, whom Feyre comforts as it dies. Afterwards, Feyre expresses her regret over killing the fairy wolf. Tamlin opens up to Feyre, despite having a heart that Lucian says is made of stone. At the springtime fairy festival of Calanmai, Feyre is rescued from an attack by Rhysand, a high fae later revealed to be the High Lord of the Night Court and henchman of Amarantha. After the festival, Tamlin bites and kisses Feyre in a magic-induced passion, having warned her to stay away from him that night. While on an errand for Amarantha, Rhysand learns that Feyre lives at the Spring Court. With this knowledge of Feyre's immediate danger, Tamlin decides to send her home for her own safety. Before Feyre leaves, she and Tamlin make love, and Tamlin tells Feyre he loves her, but Feyre is afraid to confess that she feels the same. Upon returning home, Feyre finds her family thriving. Tamlin has returned them to their former state of wealth and high society. Despite the improvement to her family's station, she can't shake the feeling that she made a mistake in leaving Tamlin. Unable to bear it, she crosses back into Prythian to find a ransacked spring court where her former lady-in-waiting, Alice, explains the true nature of Tamlin's curse and reveals that the Blight is actually Amarantha, who has tricked the Fae courts and stolen their power. Amarantha cursed Tamlin for refusing to be her lover. The curse could only be broken if he could convince a human woman who has killed a Fae to marry him. He had 49 years to accomplish this, or become her consort. She now rules the Fae realm, and is plotting a war to take over the lands held by the humans. Feyre could have broken the curse if only she would have told Tamlin she loved him, but now it is too late, as the 49-year time period has come and gone. Feyre travels to Amarantha's court under the mountain to rescue Tamlin. She is immediately caught, and upon being presented to Amarantha is offered a deal. Feyre must complete 3 tasks to free Tamlin and break the curse. Additionally, Feyre can free Tamlin immediately if she is able to answer a riddle supplied by Amarantha. Feyre defeats a giant worm during the first task, but is badly wounded. Rhysand, the High Lord of the Night Court, heals her in exchange for her company at his residence 1 week every month. Desperate, and knowing she may die from infection and certain defeat should her next trial be a physical test, she agrees. Rhysand marks their bargain with a tattoo on her arm and proceeds to flaunt her while forcing her to drink the intoxicating wine of the Fae in the ensuing weeks. We learn that Rhysand is secretly plotting against Amarantha and wants to manipulate Tamlin into a killing rage against her, knowing that if the queen is killed, it will return all of the High Lord's powers, including his own. The second trial finds Feyre in a pit with a captive Lucian, the ceiling covered in hot spikes slowly being lowered upon them. 3 levers are on the wall beneath an inscription with a riddle. Unable to read, Feyre can't learn the riddle to begin working out its answer. Rhysand telepathically intervenes, and she pulls the correct lever. For the third task, Feyre must kill 3 innocent and masked fairies. Distraught, Feyre kills the first 2. but she stops when the third fairy is revealed to be Tamlin. Feyre, desperately searching her memory for a way out of having to kill her love, realizes that Tamlin possesses a literal heart of stone. She then stabs him in the chest, outwitting Amarantha. Amarantha, furious at being defeated, begins to torture Feyre despite Rhysand's attempts to intervene. In her last moments of life, Feyre solves Amarantha's riddle, and the curse on Tamlin is immediately broken. The answer is love. Amarantha then breaks Feyre's neck, killing her. Tamlin, his power returned to him in full, kills Amarantha, and the 7 High Lords of Prythian combine their power to resurrect Feyre as a High Fae. Feyre is traumatized and uncertain of her future as a High Fae, Tamlin and Rhysand both doing their best to comfort her. Feyre returns to the Spring Court with Tamlin, seeing it restored to its former glory, and for the first time in her life realizes that she is home. Ah.
Oh, man.
I was love the whole time, Chad.
I was love the whole time. I see you took out the word brutal in my summary writing of when he kills.
Oh, he brutally kills Amarantha.
He brutally kills her because he doesn't just take a sword and stick it through her head. Well, he does that. And then afterwards, he rips her throat out with his mouth.
Whoa. I mean, how would you feel if you'd been cursed for 49 years? I mean, yeah.
Good on
but
him.
Not only you, but
I'm,
like everyone you care about. That whole estate was masked. They were all prisoners.
Yeah, he's like just at the very, I would have ripped her throat out because like I hadn't been able to itch my nose for 50 years, let alone all of the rest. You know?
All of the rest. Oh. What did you think about Rhysand?
I loved him. Awesome character. And like he's like, if like the god of evil and the god of sex had a love child, it would be like Rhys. Right,
be like the lead singer of the best band ever with bat wings.
Yeah, he's like so sensual and like snarky, and he was one of my favorites actually. I really liked him.
He's a fantastic character.
Have to not go down a rabbit trail here, but I have a slight prediction here that there might be like a weird love triangle thing coming our way regarding him. Okay, so that conversation was very interesting because while he's like, "Hey, I'll see you later," and also she's like, "Yeah, I gotta be at your place every week
you will
for
see
the
me
next.
Later.
Yeah, you will see me later." Because he's like trying to be all mysterious. He's like, maybe you'll see me around. She's like, no, literally, you will see me at
once
your house
a month for a week. Yeah,
for a week. Which is like 25% of her life forever. He halfway through disappearing, he has like a weird look on his face. It's like shocked, and he stares at her, and he's like, what, and then poof, like disappears.
It's crazy.
Am I supposed to know more about that, or is like my
no, that's as much as you're given. Yeah.
Okay. Because he looks at her and he like seeing something for the first time, like, wait, what? And then he goes. So it's not just like he's like halfway wherever he's going and he sees like, oh shoot, my house has been taken over or something. It's like, no, he's seeing something about her.
Yeah, he was not expecting something. We're gonna figure that out. What did you think about Tamlin?
Man, lots of thoughts. Lots of thoughts on Tamlin. I really like him. I think he's awesome. He's like a troubled soul who's just like he's a good guy. He's a really good guy at the end of the day. But he's also, I don't know, he's like, maybe it's like an ego or arrogance thing. Like he holds a lot. And I didn't formulate this opinion about him till the very end, but he holds a lot of information from Feyre. And it's like, bro, she could have done with a lot more explaining. Like the blight, she still thinks is like a disease when she's sent back to her family. It's like, no, it's actually a person who has taken all of the power and has like wrecked and corrupted their entire system of governance. Like, I don't know. It seemed a little like he kind of was doing her a bit of a disservice, holding so much information back from her.
Well, I mean, initially they're not on the same level, you know. I mean, he just brings her back. Like, I mean, for a long time, like he doesn't feel like he owes her any explanation for anything, you know.
He loves her at that point.
Sure, but like he's bringing her over the barrier initially as somebody that can possibly break this curse.
Right. She's a solution.
Right, and also someone that murdered one of his friends.
Yeah.
So like he's not like, "Oh, cool, like this super beautiful woman is now living with me. I'm just going to like dump all my secrets on her and stuff," you know. It's a very weird situation at first, and I think Sarah J. Maas did like a really good job at it. Wasn't like this kind of insta love oh, I'll just kind of be with you since you're the only one around, like kind of thing. You know what I mean? She was initially very not cool with the situation, obviously, which makes a lot of sense. You know, their affection for each other took a little bit. She was there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, when he starts off, I mean, he's in a really tricky position because he's like, okay, in order to the queen did a really good job cursing him into an impossible scenario. Because one, it's just very unlikely, and two, she's like, you have to fall in love and have something fall in love with you that hates you. First off, hates you
Yeah.
enough to kill a fae, and then also you need to fall in love with it, someone that someone who could have killed like a brethren of yours, like a friend. So it's like a really maybe very difficult to fall in love with someone who, murdered your buddy. However, I still think he could have helped her out a little bit. Now, at the same time, though, I can't point all the fingers at him. She could have asked a lot more questions and like had a few things be a lot more important to her. Like he does not give her very much information. Like throughout the entire book, his upon arriving at his estate, his recommendation to her in regards to her being safe and keeping herself safe is keep your eyes peeled. like like it's not the exact words. What are the exact words? I haven't written down. One second. Keep your wits about you is his warning. It's like keep your wits about you. How about like, hey, if you go outside, you might hit a number of these creatures that are all trying to trick you and kill you. If you see a loved one, it might not be your loved one, but it might be an evil fae trying to kill you. Like
Talon's grumpy. You know what
he's
I mean?
grumpy.
Yeah, Tamlin. That's kind of just like when I first read this book, I wasn't seeing it at first, like Tamlin and Feyre. I was just like, man, this guy's so grumpy. Like it's not even like hot grumpy. He's just grumpy. Like he's such a bummer.
So
You know what
funny,
I mean?
hot grumpy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Oh, it's totally a thing. Yeah.
But I kind of started getting it because it's like he kind of
Responsibility grumpy.
well, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He's responsibility grumpy, but as he and Feyre are spending more time together, he starts to appreciate more about her as a person. She has a passion for painting. She seems to want to go bathe in a pool of starlight, so they're cool with that. And I love that part so
Oh
much.
my God. It was just like, I don't know. I feel like if you went and like asked like a 14-year-old girl, like, what's the most romantic thing that you could possibly think of? Like that scene was just like,
There are so many moments like that in these books. Like whatever the opposite of an eye roll is, where it's just like
opposite of an eye roll. That's a good way of putting it.
that is what these books are, bathing in a pool of starlight. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's what they are. And starlight is a big deal in these books. The stars are a big deal in these books.
Oh, absolutely. As our growling.
Ooh, yeah, growling.
Okay, the growl is a thing that I didn't think about very much until three-fourths of the way through the book. And I was like, huh. I thought it was like really hot until I tried to produce the noise myself. Just stop this podcast for a second and try to sensually growl. Be
Well, I'm not
alone.
going to do
Be
it right
alone.
now.
No,
Oh.
not you. I'm just saying for listeners, stop the
Oh.
podcast right now and try to sensually
Well,
growl.
I mean, I think that the sensual growl comes from a sensual place, right? So it's like the hotness comes from how natural it is.
Oh, it's a feral sound.
Yeah, a feral sound, So
For
I mean,
sure.
if you're sitting next to your significant other, watching Better Call Saul, and you're just like, "Ugh," like they're gonna be like, hey, could you stop that forever? Like, and
You
never
need
do
to
that
clear
ever
your
again.
throat. Like
But uh, when the mood strikes, the growl works.
oh, of course it does. Man, it was just
Lots of growling. I mean, to
lots
be
of
fair,
growling.
like Tamlin is like half.
He's like a wolf thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I pictured him as like a hot ripped werewolf.
yeah. Okay, so is this just me? And I'm asking my listeners here too. I need to know this. I haven't asked anybody this ever. Did Amarantha? I know that she's supposed to be like this beautiful fairy queen, but I pictured her as like Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove.
Totally, like a really high collar of spikes.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Sitting there like hello.
Like Eartha Kitt's voice and like everything, like that's how I pictured Amarantha. And I know that that's not what she's supposed to look like.
She's like the
supposed to look
hottest version of like Ursula from
right.
the Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah. That whole motif, yeah, totally. But yeah, what did you think about that whole situation, like Amarantha and the curse that she put on Tamlin and all that stuff?
She was very similar to the Pool of Starlight in that she was like a marvelously, fantastically tropey bad guy who's like
Right.
brought down by her own ego. She is the lever, the mechanism of her own undoing.
Oh yeah.
She could just like kill Feyre.
Yeah, but I think that part of Amarantha wanted Tamlin to come to her through his own, like she held out to the last for Tamlin to see reason, or what she considered to be reason, or enough reason
Right.
for her to be satisfied with his affections. I mean, and I could be wrong about that, but that's what I read. Those were the lines that I read in between everything, is like Amarantha is just like a lonely, sad lady. She really likes Tamlin.
Wow, to say Amarantha, the evil queen, is a lonely,
I
sad.
mean,
Those
what's
were
at
not
the
my
root?
thoughts.
What's at the root of a lot of evil, though? It's a lot of
Yeah, probably lonely
insecurity,
sadness
sadness.
and
Yeah,
not being
um,
loved.
yeah, but a very like mustache twirly villain for sure. Like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because she's like a power hungry fool for sure. And fool, I mean literally, because she, like I said, is the own. She's so wise and so conniving, and then also kind of ridiculously idiotic. And then it's like, dude, don't set up a scenario that if the other person, no matter how unlikely,
you could totally
you
get out of
could
it. Yeah,
lose everything. It's like, and she loses everything. It's like, man.
and it's likely enough with the answer literally being love.
Oh my
Like
God. I
I
had it
remember.
figured out in a
Yeah,
like
yeah,
30 I like paused, put the book down, and I thought about it. I was like, oh, love, duh. It's like
yeah,
time. I went through, this is how I figured it out. I was like, what are the most common answers to book riddles? And I was like, time,
yeah.
fate, and then I was like, boom, nailed it.
Yeah, I remember when I read this through, I definitely was kind of annoyed with Feyre because it was like, really? You didn't
Seriously?
get this like immediately?
And it has like an irony that's so delicious. Like, dude, come
Yeah.
on.
But I mean, let's give Feyre some credit, right?
Dude,
She's
no,
in a
I'm
very
not.
traumatic situation here. It makes sense that maybe some answers like that would slip her mind. It'd slip mine
Maybe.
probably.
Dude, if your life was at stake and you're sitting in a cell with like hours and hours of nothing to do, you could
You'd figure
figure
out
out
that
the
riddle.
answer. Also, like, I gotta say, man, I really like the Fairy character. She has a lot of really good things going on for her personality. That being said, she is kind of an idiot sometimes. Like
Yeah,
she
yeah.
doesn't she mentions multiple times like, oh, I wish I had an ash arrow. It's like, you are rich. Stop at the store on your way
The
to
Ash Arrow
Tamlin's.
store.
Yeah, dude. Like you're telling me that the border town by the Fae doesn't have a
No,
weaponry
somebody
that sells
probably
ash
did.
arrows?
Yeah.
Or fine, stop by an ash tree. You're by
Like
a forest.
she was in
Break
a
off a
hurry.
branch and make a spike.
She was in a hurry.
Okay, then after she gets to the manor, she's being like led through the woods by Alice, who I loved by the way, to the mountain under, and she's like, for surely not going to be able to sneak in and take him out without any sort of confrontation. Like, that would be a ridiculous assumption to make. Does she prepare herself in any way?
No, she kind
No.
of just wanders in there and is
She
immediately
wanders
captured.
in there and is immediately captured. It's like, dude, okay, they are cursed to wear masks. You
Yeah.
have the best disguise already prepared for you. Give it landed at your feet, handed to you on a silver platter. Put on a freaking mask, and all of a sudden you're a member of the spring court. She doesn't even bother to wear a mask. Like, are you freaking kidding me? You
She's
huge
love
idiot.
struck, Chad. She's not thinking straight. The love of her life has been
Her,
taken to a torture chamber under a giant magical mountain.
I mean, even before she falls in love, her sense of self-preservation is extremely non-existent. Like, the whole
Like
like
I love
party.
how Tamlin is just like, okay, this one party that we're having out in
Oh
the
my
forest,
God.
do not go out here, okay? Like seriously, don't
Like,
come out here. Like
super don't.
we are crazy giant magical beings that you've been afraid of your entire life, and we're gonna go do weird shit out in the forest, okay?
Like,
Like
he says, we're having a blood orgy where we're sacrificing maidens just like you. Everything besides without saying those words.
like you are exactly what this blood orgy is looking for. Okay, do not come out here.
You are the hors d'oeuvres served at this party. Please do not come. And then she makes it to 10 o'clock that night, which is like, it starts when the sun goes down. She makes it an hour and a half, no time at all. And then does she put on a mask? No, she grabs a fucking horse and rides into the party.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh my
okay,
God.
okay.
Stand
But
in the forest and like do some recon.
I mean, she's 19.
Oh,
It's so easy to judge her, right? But it's also like if I had been stuck in a house for months in a magical fairy realm, and my captor was like, "Hey, we're gonna go have this party out in the forest, and you're not allowed to go." There would be a part of me that was like, "What the hell are they doing out in that forest?" You know,
Oh,
like I gotta check that out. Like I've been cooped up in this house forever. I mean,
I'm
screw
not
that guy. You
hating.
know?
I'm not necessarily hating on her leaving the house to go check out the party. I'm hating everything else.
Oh, you
Like
mean
the
like
fact that she doesn't creep up to the edge of the firelight woods and like peer in or try to be
right?
silent about it. She just like literally rides in on a horse, like clip, 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 clip. Oh my God, woman, what are you doing?
What did you think about Lucian?
Oh, he was probably my favorite
Yeah,
character.
Lucian is great.
Oh yeah, in my mind, he's the hottest man.
Yeah, there's so the thing with these books is everybody's hot.
Oh,
Like
everybody's hot.
everybody's hot. Every
Yeah, even
single
her Feyre's dad, I'm sure is.
yeah, everybody's hot. This is a fantasy. Sarah J. Maas is really stretching the limits of what that word can mean here. You know, like this is literally a land of supermodels.
Oh, they're all just so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Even like the evil fairies are all just like swimmers, you know, like
Yeah,
like it's all they're all Adonises.
they're perfection, evil incarnate. You know.
Yeah, and it's very like the aesthetic of this is very kind of, you know, like well-to-do aesthetic. You know what I mean? It's like
Oh yeah,
it's a
high
very like
society,
it's a very like Pier 1 imports like aesthetic, you know. At least or it's like a Pinterest
but
aesthetic,
with like
you
a
know.
vampiric, dirty grime to it.
Yeah, it's
Like there's a
interesting, isn't it?
feral nature in this book as well.
Totally.
That's like
Yeah.
it's like not just like perfect people having perfect sex, but like in a cemetery covered in mud. Okay, there's a few parts during the book that I found to be like almost, I don't know, just like a little hard to believe and just I don't know. Okay, so there's she's talking to Tamlin, but right before she gets sent away, and after the Sex King comes a calling, and her first response to him being like, "You gotta leave," is like, "Did I do something wrong? What? No." Like, were we not part of the same conversation where the most powerful creature that you have ever known was forced to grovel for someone he clearly hated? Of course, you didn't do something wrong. He's trying to protect you. And then his reaction, dude, you need to answer her questions. He's like, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I just need to get you home. And it's like, dude, she's proven herself time and time again. If she has any curiosity inside of her to like follow it to its end, even though that ends in her demise. Like, answer enough questions to sate her curiosity so she doesn't do the exact opposite of what you're trying to get her to do.
Well, I mean, the question is, do you think that she would have gone anyway at that point because she was in love with Tamlin, right? I mean, even if
Right.
Tamlin thoroughly explained what kind of danger she was really in, by your own definition of Feyre as being this really proactive, curious person, it kind of wouldn't even matter how much information she had.
Yeah, that's true. But still, I'd at least arm her with enough. So, like, the first question she has doesn't send her gallivanting into the forest, you know? She's like, "You think I'm going to get into your way?" And he's like, "Well, like, I'm saying 100% yes. Like, you've done nothing besides need to be saved every time you leave this house. Every time. Every time you leave the house, you encounter something that you don't know, and then you kind of do something ridiculous like follow it or want to capture it.
But Feyre's not the kind of person that would be satisfied with the danger being too much for her, which is why it makes her so endearing, right?
Yeah,
Like
she is
there's
very
no
endearing.
amount of danger that she won't willingly throw herself into.
All of my criticism is surrounded by a warm bubble of feeling towards her.
Right, yeah, because she's so in love with Tamlin, and she's such a. I mean, Feyre is a stand-up person, like
Oh, she's
seriously,
great.
and I'm not to spoil anything, but like I mean, she really does stay pretty consistently righteous. I guess is the word to use, in my opinion.
Her main motivation, at least the first half of the story till she's freed from it, is her promise to her mother to like care for her family. You know, she's a
Right.
good person. Doesn't protect her from being kind of an idiot sometimes.
Right, but I mean, what is the old saying? You know, like love makes idiots of us all. You know, like how many
Through that.
dumb things have you done because you're smitten? You know, like
Super dumb.
I like bought a car one time because I liked a
Yeah,
girl
dude.
so
Those
much.
stolen street signs.
Such a fucking idiot. Like
Yeah.
done so many dumb things. Like I can't even say with a
You bought a
straight
car
face.
once?
I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
It's so stupid.
I
Anyway,
almost bought a car once for
oh
love. It was like a
god, it's
Firebird, and this
so
girl really wanted loved
silly.
it.
Oh my god.
I didn't though.
It's so easy sometimes in these kinds of books and in all kinds of books to because you're removed from the situation, right? You know, you're
Mhm.
safe in your bed, you're safe on the couch, It's like watching a horror movie sometimes where you're like, why would you run upstairs when there's literally nowhere for you to run once you're up there? You know what I mean?
Right.
But you're not in a panic. And in a situation like this, you know those feelings you get for people when you're just over the moon about somebody, right? And you're just like, I can't believe that you even exist in a corporeal form. You're perfect. So imagine you're taken out from living in like literal shit, in like this cold, drab, terrible, poor environment, taken across this barrier by a literal supermodel immortal god, sex god that can turn into a fucking bear. You know what I mean? You take it into this amazing, incredible, dreamlike space that is eternally spring. It's
Yeah.
eternally. It's not the spring court because like there's these certain kind of flowers there. It's spring court because it's eternally the nicest
Eternally
part of the
spring,
year
yeah.
forever. And then this like brutish, gruff, like
Right.
super
Sex
hot, like
machine.
yeah, as starts to fall in love with you. He buys you paints, Chad. He
Yeah,
buys you he
it's
buys
true.
you art
I
supplies.
realized that
And
she's
like
like love struck and she's just desperate to stay with him. But I don't know. The conversation was just like even he gets like he's like, didn't you read between the lines today? And she's like, no, I didn't. Like, yeah, no shit, dude. You didn't even have to read between the lines.
I it's funny. There's a lot of moments like that in these books where you're like, why the hell would you do what you just did?
Right.
But it's like it's always, and it's kind of like what we were talking about in the intro. It's like it's almost like love in this series. It's almost kind of like magic in Harry Potter. You know, it's like
Mm.
magic. It's like love. We do
Right.
crazy stuff.
Okay.
We do
Okay.
crazy
But
stuff for love.
still, man, how many times do you have to not like have reading be a thing that inhibits you from doing something that you want or making you look the way that you wish to be appeared to like not take some freaking classes, like set aside your ego long enough to grab the book off the shelf and practice. She even knows the letters. She can sound them out. So like while you're sitting in your cell, scrape them out on the wall, get better. I don't know. There's just some times that I'm like, man, you really could have been a lot more prepared for this. Like maybe if every time you went outside, you got into a fight, you'd be like, I should really learn how to throw a punch after the 80th time.
Well, what's funny is I've brought up some of these points before in like some of the lives that I've done and things like that, especially while I was reading these books, and like invariably the answer that I always got was don't dig too deep into it. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like because there is a certain appreciation for what is going on that it's like the more I'm going to use Harry Potter as an example again, because the more that you dig into Harry Potter, the shittier that series
Oh, it
is.
falls
It,
to
it, yeah,
pieces.
it does, and we could sit here all day and really kind of. There's a lot to dig at here, but it's almost like you don't really need to,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
just go along for the ride.
I'll end my criticism of
Oh, I
Feyre
love your
by saying
criticism. I think
she
it's
has the
great.
self-preservation instincts of a honey badger with none of the supporting skills or ferocity. Maybe
Huh.
ferocity, but supporting
Ferocity for
skills.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ferocity, yeah, yeah. But
I
supporting skills,
mean,
like, dude, learn how to find.
I was really impressed with her in those tasks, like at the end of the book.
Oh, she's
Like
brave.
yeah,
She's
like the worm
cunning in
fight.
the moment.
Yeah, in the moment for sure. Yeah, I mean that the worm fight for one thing. I mean that was epic. That was really good.
I needed the worm fight
Yeah, the worm fight was really cool.
because she just goes like blundering into the pit of danger without even wearing. She even thinks to herself like, "I should have a dagger." Whatever, and goes waltzing on it. And so I like didn't really have very much respect for her as a character or person until that scene. And then I was like, look at her like cunning. Okay, she's like using things. She sets up this trap. It shows her depth of intelligence. And I was like, okay, I'm with you now. And then badassery, she's like using the bones to stick into the mud to swing around the corners.
Yeah,
Like
that was a really cool
super
idea.
cool.
Totally.
Super cool.
I mean, I look at A Court of Thorns and Roses as like they're like Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
They're like romance Marvel movies. If you're going in looking for it to be like this mind-bending like A24 film,
Literary
yeah,
masterpiece.
I mean, I'm not saying that the writing isn't on par with some of the better books that I've read because I went into this thinking how good of a writer could Sarah J. Maas really be if she's writing like this? I was very naive going into it. She's an excellent writer. She
She's
really
an excellent
is.
writer, yeah.
I do think that, like, if I was going to critique Moss's writing, I think that her vocabulary,
She finds words and uses them.
yeah, she really likes certain words. Like, she really, really likes using, like, as the books go on, she uses the word busybody, like, all the time, like,
Oh,
so much.
really?
You'll notice it. Well, now
I
you'll
haven't
notice it
noticed it
because I
once.
pointed it out. Well, she doesn't really do it in the first book, but as the kind of ensemble starts putting itself together, you start seeing that a lot more. Smirking is definitely like
It's so many growling too. Like everybody's growling.
everyone's growling and smirking. I mean, Moss just has like a lot of like habits that I've noticed that people do. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it, but like people are picking the lint off of their shirt all the time. Like someone's always flicking like invisible lint off of their shirt.
It's
I
like that
noticed that.
person's isms.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like with, I mean, a lot of authors do it. Like Sanderson really likes the word scuttle. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's always scuttling in Sanderson books. Like in Stephen King books, there's always a character with a blue chambray shirt for some reason.
Yeah, Salvatore loves the word skitter and revolve and talking about how Drizzt moves. Drizzt is skittering everywhere.
I don't know if you've gotten far enough in the series, but vulgar gesture. She loves using the words vulgar
Yes.
gesture.
It's used about 10 times in the last like couple chapters of the
And
book.
that keeps being used too. It's just, you know, and it's not really like it's not bad writing or anything. It's just, it's one of those things where, for me personally, whenever that happens, it starts pulling me out of it a little bit because I can't, like, I noticed that V.E. Schwab really loves the word easy.
Hmm.
V.E. Schwab loves the word easy. Everything is easy. An easy walk, an easy gait, an easy glare, an easy glance, like an easy touch, an easy stance. Like everything is just easy.
That
Everyone,
rhymed.
like everybody, yeah, it did. But
It's great.
everybody in V.E. Schwab books is like literally just like leaning up against shit like all the time. Like everybody is just like lounging around. And
We're
it's kind of like,
casual
yeah,
AF.
and every and kind of in this series too, I've noticed there's a lot of like everybody's so hot and confident, which is hot. It's great. It's cool how at ease everybody is with everybody else, but it's like
Right.
as the series goes on, you're going to notice a lot like the kind of core ensemble of this series, like everybody seriously is just laying around like smirking at each other like a
Yeah.
lot, and then they're just
With like
banging.
open shirts, you know,
Yeah,
like
seriously. It's like an H&M like photo shoot.
when Tamlin's mask finally gets taken off, I just like stopped, was like, oh, when it was like, and he looked exactly like I thought he would.
But of course, you know what I mean? But I really like that part. I kind of want to I want to dig into that for just a second cuz like
Okay.
at first you're like, of course he does, right? Cuz this
Right.
is a romance book or whatever. But
Right.
I thought about it in a way where Feyre at that point loved him so much she didn't even I don't think she actually did have like a preconceived notion of what he actually looked like.
Oh, she had an idea, but it wasn't a requirement.
But I think that whatever his face looked like under that mask, no matter what it looked like, she would have said it was perfect and it was exactly what I thought it would be because of how much she loved him.
I don't think it would have been exactly what she thought it was, but it was perfect. I do agree with that.
That was like my little romantic thought when I was reading it, you know.
No, and that's a really good romantic thought. I mean, she's clearly it clearly doesn't matter because she's willing to be in love with someone who literally can't take a mask off his face.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's pretty cool. You know, you have no idea what they look like, or if you'll ever even be able to see what they look like. You know, that's pretty sweet.
I was wondering, is the mask like?
Yeah, it's supposed
Is
to
it
be really
like?
thin.
Because I imagine the mask is like a stone mask. You know, like if you're kissing somebody and your teeth kind of clack together a little bit. Like, has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like,
Glasses clinking,
yeah.
all
Oh,
sorts of
that's
clinking.
adorable.
I've had them tangle up and fall off my face.
Oh my god, that's awesome. But yeah, like I was like, oh man, did Pharaoh's forehead like knock against his mask at any point? You know, I
Yeah.
don't think that was mentioned.
I about halfway through the book had to remove the bottom half of the mask. I made it just a masquerade ball mask, which
That's
makes
what it
sense
is, isn't it?
because yeah, I don't think it's really described. Maybe I just missed it.
No, it
But
is.
for some
Yeah,
reason I had like a full facial mask until about they start kissing.
yeah. The bottom of his face is exposed.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't miss that and I just went with like full mask. And then they start kissing and I was like, that's ridiculous, Chad. And so I
Yeah.
removed the bottom half of it. And then I learned they were at a masquerade ball and I was like, oh,
Oh, it's
clearly
like one
that's
of
the sort
those.
of mask. And then I changed it in my brain to a actual masquerade mask.
Yeah, it's like a Zorro mask. It's like it's just
Exactly.
basically covering the eyes and
Exactly.
most of the
Yeah.
nose. Yeah, it can't cover the whole thing. We got to have with it. They all got to be hot. We got to see some jaw lines. Jawlines.
Yeah, and
Love a
eyebrows because
good
we need
love a good
sarcastic
jawline.
expressions, and you can't be sarcastic without eyebrows.
Can't smirk with a mask on.
Okay, who is the adder? I don't remember the introduction of that character, but then she's just like all over the place at the end of the book. Like she's obviously the henchwoman or henchman or hench snake of Amarantha, but I just don't know. Hopefully, you can shine some light on what she is.
I think the adder has he him pronouns. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. The adder is kind of like in service to, I envision it as like a big pointy eared bat.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
it's not a snake.
No, because you're thinking of like an adder snake, like
Yeah, yeah.
ADDER, but this is ATTOR. It's like Ator.
Oh,
So like the adder is sent by Amarantha to the Spring Court to kind of like tell Tamlin. Like, he's like, "Ah, do you hope you remember the deal with my mistress?" You know, like that's like his whole role. And then he like throws that glamour on Feyre when the Ador is like at their estate and stuff. But yeah, I pictured him as like a bat, like a big giant bat.
you have to be. This would be very, very difficult to write the scene when she comes back to life. Well, more importantly, when Amarantha gets killed, because so many things would happen simultaneously, right? Like, okay, everyone in the room just got like all their power returned to them. And there's like 50 years of pent up like revenge gonna happen right
Yeah,
then and there. Like half the room would have just like killed the other half of the room. Like right away. While but they're also like celebrating. It's like weird. It would be very difficult. She did a good job.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that whatever the kind of animosities between the courts were at that point were as big as them all getting their powers back. I mean, they were probably just happy to go home and then deal
Yeah.
with those things later. So one of the scenes in this book that really shook me pretty hard was when Tamlin brings that fairy to the house with his wings torn off, and then Feyre kind of
Oh
comforts
yeah.
it until it dies.
Yeah, that scene was rough.
That was intense. That was,
Super intense.
yeah, yeah, and that was kind of the point in the book because it's not super early on in the book, but it's not super late either. It's like kind of right in the middle of the book. That was a part where I was really feeling like Sarah J. Maas's writing chops. That was very emotional.
And also the point of the book that Tamlin begins, I think, to fall in love with her.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge, like, really critical scene in the book. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Sarah J. Maas did it super well. It's like one of my favorite scenes that I've ever read of hers.
It's very well written, but it's just so. I mean, this is
It's hard to
probably
read.
a testament to why it's so well written. But yeah, it's hard to read. It's like emotionally tumultuous for sure. She's really good at writing people begging for their lives.
Yeah, she is. She's
Like,
you'll
whoa.
hear it again. You know, going into writing this, I'm sure that I don't know if she was like consciously aware of this or like, you know, it was like a edit. I'm sure she didn't have it like written on a sticky note or something, but with how fantastical and a little bit like over the top and melodramatic a lot of this is, you have to keep a certain amount of humanity in these characters. Like you have to have them still be relatable and still have
Totally.
like strong emotions that aren't just like this blind like who gives a shit love, which would make the books very one dimensional, and they're not one dimensional. You know, there are a lot more
No.
emotions floating around than just like I love you so much because you're so hot and like everything's so cool here. Like that's not what this is.
Even to call these just romance novels, I feel like is doing them a disservice. They're great adventure books
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I mean, if you lifted all the romance, like all the spicy scenes out of here and kind of like didn't focus so much on Tamlin and Feyre's relationship, it would still be a very enjoyable read. It's just kind
Absolutely.
of fun to have some sexy parts in there. Why not? Throw them in.
This is great. I would have all of my sensual exploits delivered to me upon such a platter.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, so help
And
me
then
to
Chad ditched his laptop and started
yes,
by.
straight up, dude.
Yeah.
Like I would never buy a used copy of this book.
Probably a
You
good
know?
call. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like don't ever get this book used. Anyway, how did she come back to life? Was that like all of the spring courts?
Now there's the scene we should totally talk about. The
Yeah.
I was just
She's
talking
like
about
super dead.
we were heaping praise on Sarah J. Maas, and then you had to bring this scene up. Um, yeah, man, it's probably like I have a pretty big beef with
Like
that scene.
she's so dead, she's seeing herself from someone else's eyes, which is weird too. Like what? I'm just so confused.
It's really weird. Okay, so Sorry, I'm just collecting my thoughts here.
No, no, do it.
And it has been a year since I've read this, so like, correct me if I bumble anything,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's so like, of course, totally. Oh, she
Right.
gets turned into a high fae, like
Oh my
for
God.
sure. You know, like
Yeah,
it's not enough that they revived her and like let her live after literally dying. No, their power combined makes her just stock Toyota Camry high fae. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
just like
Yeah, now they solved the forever problem.
yeah,
You
and
know, it's
it's
like
just I don't know.
there could
I
have been a
was
better way.
it's I had mixed feelings about it because I on one end I was like, man, like that's so like whatever, like of
Right.
course. But on the other side of it, I was kind of like, oh, so now we have like a pretty good reason for this to just keep going. Now she's super involved, you know. But it
It
is
answered
kind
a
of
lot
just
of
like
questions, and the story kind of needed it to happen.
yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think that that's all true, but it's just like cool. Now you made her a superhero. Like
Yeah.
goodbye. That's the end of the book. Eh, I would feel that way with pretty much like anything where it's just
Right.
like, but she earned it. Kind of if you know if you think about it, she saved everybody. So it's not like Tamlin's girlfriend died and then all of the leaders of Prithian were just like, we got to help Tamlin's girlfriend. Like that's not what the
Right.
situation was.
Right. Because I was thinking to myself, like, well, why didn't they like she wasn't the only person to have just died. She also just killed two other Fae. Like I'm sure the weeping mother over there wasn't rejoicing after her, but she earned it, was the thought, the conclusion I came to. You never really answered my question of how she comes back to life.
Oh, yeah, because I couldn't.
Is it just like Fae Stardust
Yeah,
magic?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah, because I couldn't. And they literally are just like, "Wah," and then because they can just do that if they like all do it at the same time, you
Yeah,
know,
all of them
like.
together. Yeah, yeah. Which would be like really hard to get all of them, the same room and to be willing to give up a huge chunk of their power that they just got back. Yeah, yeah, I
it's
get it. Okay.
it's brought up again that situation because it's like they were. I feel like they were all so high off of like being free again that they
Yeah,
were
well,
just
dude, I
like,
mean,
sure, like let's go, like let's revive her, sure,
yeah.
whatever. They were caught up in the moment. So are we,
Yeah, because they all gave her like a starry chunk of light,
right?
and then she comes back to life. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, the light
Does
magic.
her
All right.
neck like re-straighten itself or something?
It must. Yeah. I mean, we never had the like. It's such a romantically awesome scene that it would be
Right.
kind of grotesque to have her like crick back into place, but I'm sure it had to have happened because it does say that her neck was twisted at a angle that would mean she's no longer living. Oh, I don't want to ruin the story for myself here, but did Fair? You can just riddle me this, Batman. Does the people that Feyre killed during the last trial come back to bite her? Like the
um,
specific individuals that she killed?
in a in a way, that's all
Okay.
I'll say.
Okay.
Not the way you think, not the way you're asking,
Okay.
um, for sure.
Okay.
But that is a pretty intense scene too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, she like
Like I said, Sarah's
actually
ability.
kills them. Like,
Yeah. Her ability to write someone's like final moments before death or
yeah.
pleading is pretty good. Have you ever read any of the Crescent City series?
No, no, we could probably read those together. That'd
I
be
would
fun.
really like
Because
to.
there's only two of them. I'd rather read those than all eight Throne of Glass books, personally. Like, that's a
Oh
lot. That's a
yeah,
lot of
that's
books.
a lot of books. The cover of House of Sky and Breath is one of the coolest book covers I have ever
Yeah,
seen.
those are really
It is
neat covers for
radical,
sure.
beautiful art.
I
Like
have the
so
first
cool.
one. My friend Amber bought me the first one. Amber
Cool.
Nicole, a an author of romance that everybody should go read.
Amber Nicole. What has
hmm
she written?
She wrote a book recently called The Book of Ezreal.
Cool. I'll tag it in the description below. I'm like reading. I'm getting distracted by the quotes that I have written down. Don't ever disobey me again, he said, his voice a deep purr that ricocheted through me, awakening everything and lulling me into complicity. Whew, what a sentence.
Oh, you're not even in the. You're eating the fucking mozzarella sticks before the burger comes out, buddy. Like it's,
Dude, oh, I
yeah.
bet. I mean,
Like
okay.
Court of Silver Flames is fucking filthy, dude.
Is it really?
Oh my god. What do you think Rhysand's motivations are?
Well, I think I don't know what his motivations are now, but his motivations during this book was to get free of the queen and get his power back.
Totally.
Yeah. But he's a very selfish being. He
Okay.
wants what's best for himself. I think he's selfish. But I think he's that unique sort of arrogance that comes from like immortality and having like all the power. He does things just to like entertain himself, kind of.
Interesting. That's
Like
funny.
he
I
just
can't I can't like elaborate on stuff.
like I that's
It's
why I think he wants her at his court. He finds her interesting
hmm.
and he's bored. He's bored. And so he wants but he's kind of cruel and he wants what he can't have and she's part of all of that. And so she'll like she's a plaything to him, you know?
Well, and Tamlin and Rhysand seem to have a bit of a like a rivalry,
Oh,
for lack of a
totally.
better word. Tamlin and Rhysand have very kind of like opposite temperaments as well. So yeah, I'm not going to go any deeper into that, obviously.
Yeah, like I said, I predict there to be some sort of because she's gonna have to spend, 25% of the rest of her life with him, even though Lucian does says we'll see about that. So, maybe not. But if she does have to spend a considerable amount of time with him, I think she's gonna be into it. I think she's gonna get into that. Get her some Night Court King.
All right, if you could ask if Sarah J. Maas was here with us right now and you had one question to ask her, what would it be? We're gonna start wrapping up here pretty soon. So
That's
I
a
wanted
really
to
good
ask,
question.
yeah, if Sarah J. Maas was on this podcast right now with us, we each had a few glasses of wine in us. What would you ask her?
Do you and your husband like role play these scenes? Do you like does your husband dress up as Tamlin?
At least in more than once and less than 5 times. I bet that's
I
happened. Like that's.
totally agree. 100%.
I
It
mean,
has to have.
I've wondered that. Like, what would it be like to date or be married to a romance author?
Awesome.
Yeah, probably awesome.
Awesome. I was in a long distance relationship and I don't really know how it started, but how it ended was me writing a story about a love story about these two people who were in love, but it was just like only their like sexual
Yeah,
encounters with each other that I would send to her. And it was kind of like our way of like having sex over letters.
totally. Wow, that's
And
awesome.
then
Epistolary sex. That's great.
Yeah, it was great. And then when we were together, she was like, "Tell me," I forget the character's name, but she was like, "Tell me a story." Like right now, just like hit me. And so I told her a story about them or him having sex, and then she started doing all the things that it was like some of the best sex I've ever
Awesome.
had in my life. It was incredible.
Fucking love that for you,
It
bestie.
was
That's
so
so
great.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, words are sexy as hell. Like
Yeah.
in novel form, verbally with another person or multiple people. One of the things that I've read up on, like I've read a lot about sex. It's a really awesome thing to try and get better at and to try to learn about, right? And one of the things that I've seen the most that people wish that their partners did more often is talking and making
Yeah.
more noise.
Communication.
Communicating, talking, saying what you want, saying how you feel. Nothing will take you out of the moment more than feeling like the other person is out of the moment. So, a way to really cement yourself into that moment is talking to each other, like laughing, and
Because goofy things happen while you're having sex, and it can't be a turnoff.
it's mostly goofy.
Yeah, it's
it's
mostly
like
goofy.
it's
Like, yeah,
mostly gross and goofy.
it's good to like laugh and still be turned on.
Totally, yeah. It adds to it.
Yeah.
I remember there's a book called "Stranger in a Strange Land" by Robert Heinlein. It's a really excellent book. It's basically, I mean, I'm gonna super hardcore paraphrase it right now, but it's basically a man who grew up on Mars comes down to Earth and starts a sex cult. That's way different and more complicated than that, but that's just for the purpose of this podcast. I'm just
Sure.
going to say that's what it is. His name's Michael. I'm pretty sure his name's Michael. I read it a long time ago, but something stuck with me from the book, and it was this woman is kind of like one of Michael's many lovers, and somebody asks her, "What's it like to kiss Michael?" And she says, "I love kissing Michael because I feel like he's 100% not thinking about anything else other than kissing me." And I remember like reading that when I was like 20, and I was just like, that I think might be the best advice that I've gotten. Like I can extrapolate from there. That's it. So like when you're kissing somebody or when you're with somebody, focus, Don't think too hard, but just
Yep.
let yourself become lost in the physicality and mentality of that other person. And I think that one of the reasons that reading these kinds of scenes in books is so hot for people and it works, is because that's what that is. That's what all of that. It's you're reading a moment that is that. there's no distraction happening. That's what this part of the book is about.
It's like the zone. It's like when you're playing a sport or something and you're in the zone, you're in the moment.
The
Focus
flow
is
state.
100. Yeah, you're in the flow state. And like when that happens, we should try to and allow that to happen during sex more because there's a communication there that's you're not worried about like how people are thinking about it. You're not worried about anything. You're in the moment thinking about it. So it's like just
When
be
it's
you,
good.
express yourself. Yeah. When it's good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're listening right now and you think me and Chad have just been having awesome sex since we were just fucking 17, like,
Yeah,
no,
no.
like, fucking no.
I've always said like, man, it's like a violin. Like nobody picked that up and started playing Tchaikovsky, you know?
Yeah, I definitely have had my moments where I've just been
Yeah.
like, oh man, really didn't show up to
Oof,
play today.
not
Like,
proud.
like got the post game, like me in front of the microphone and like cameras flashing, like, man, what happened tonight? Like, you
Could
know,
have done better.
I
Could
could
have
have
done
done better
better.
today. Yeah, could have been.
My focus just wasn't there.
Try again next week. You know, it's just
Yeah.
7 shots of whiskey. It's just bad call,
Bad
super bad
call.
call all around. You know, I don't know who was calling plays tonight, but
I thought the
you
pool
know.
table would be great. Super hard. Super hard. Not comfortable at all.
What do you think is going to happen in A Court of Mist and Fury?
Sarah did a really good job in constructing the bad people of her story, which is actually like a huge nod to her because it's not the focus of what the story is about at all. But she did a really good job in presenting the big baddie and then alluding to a bigger baddie that the big baddie in this story is beholden to.
Totally.
So like it was really brilliant work on that part. Because it was like didn't if like you start off with like this is the second in command, it's like well that doesn't sound very powerful and bad, but it's like it is, and so she presented it in a way that was just like really good. It gave us this full scope of the situation without detracting from the power and artfully leaving us some baddies to still contend with in the next book. So I think that the guy who's like chilling on the island, is he on an island or something? I think he's on an island.
Yeah.
Um, that I think he's going to come in. I don't think he's going to invade quite yet because there's
Hmm.
5 books. So that will happen, but not in this book. I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think there's going to be a lot of Reese and her and potentially a little love triangle action. And then her family's going to come into play more. I think her sister is going to come a searching for her.
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
think she's gonna find her.
Interesting.
And I mean
Nesta.
Nesta. There we go. I don't think her other sister's too happy with where she's at. I don't think she's gonna be a big part.
Oh man, there's a
I
part
do think
in
she is going to be used later on. Like she'll be captured by
Elaine.
someone. Her
Elaine is
happy
great.
sister.
We
Yeah,
love Elaine.
yeah.
There's a part in A Court of Wings and Ruin that I can't wait for you to read it. There's so many parts that I can't wait for you to read. Man, there's so many parts of these books that are like seriously jaw dropping. Where just the drama, man, like the drama it's just turned up to 11 so many
Really.
times. Yeah, man, it's like watching a really dramatic TV show. And
Yeah.
I don't use dramatic in the sense of like of the negative connotation that it sometimes has. It's like literally drama, you know.
Hmm.
And Maas is very very good at it.
I don't think these books should be turned into film.
I kind of
It would be
I think I see what you're
impossible
saying. Yeah, I
to
don't think it would
present them
be. Yeah,
properly
yeah. I think it would take a lot of the
without.
magic out of them. Honestly,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, I think they're going to do it
I
because of
know.
how popular they are, and I'm
Yep.
sure that they'll be decent. But I think there's a
It's
certain
better
there,
left to the imagination.
there is a very oh I love that. Yeah,
Maybe an anime. Like, but like I don't know, just a real. It's like this is too much imagination fairy dust.
right.
It can't really exist.
Like I said,
They're going to be.
they're
Yeah.
gonna do
There's
it.
too much
Like
money at stake.
and we're gonna watch it. Yeah, there's too
Oh,
much. Like
absolutely.
yeah, I'm sure
Like
it'll
if
be
I was
good.
Sarah, I'd be like, as much as I do not want my art to be transpired, and this thing that I created exists perfectly through the medium of a book. I would not say no to the $10 billion that someone's going
Yeah.
to wheelbarrow to my house.
I'm not saying that it'll be as good as this. Obviously, I really don't think it would be, but I mean, to some people it would be, I guess. But I mean, when Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001, I'm sure a lot of people were like, they're never gonna capture like
That's
the
true.
magic. And I mean,
Yeah, but it's never been done before, and it's never been done before after.
I know, right? Those movies are like the only.
So
I think
good.
There's some things that have done it pretty well, but yeah.
Like what? What's come close?
I think Game of Thrones is a pretty faithful adaptation to Song of Ice and Fire. It's up to a point.
I'm not talking about like a faithful adaptation. I'm just saying something that's like, I don't know, that's like so encapsulated your imagination the same way that the book did. Like, did Game of Thrones do that?
I would say the first like 4 seasons did. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, but to be fair, those books aren't as vibrant as something like Song of Ice, ACOTAR. ACOTAR. These are some of the most vibrant, like vivid.
Vibrant's books. A really good word for it.
Yeah, these are some of the most vibrant books I've ever read, for sure. I mean,
Game of Thrones is like a forest, or it'd be like a pine forest, where this is like a jungle.
Yeah, this is very, very, very vibrant, dude.
Yes.
I think that'll do it for us today for A Court of Thorns and Roses. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I'm really excited to read the rest of these.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Let's have fun with it, man.
I'm going to.
You know,
I kind of needed this.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this very special episode that Chad and I were really excited about all week. And I'm so glad we got a chance to actually sit down and do it. It's been a long episode, too, but we had a lot to talk about. And this was the shortest, well, not the shortest, actually, the second shortest of the series. Yeah, Frost and Starlight is like a novella, but it's really good. I liked it a lot.
Started.
We are just getting started with ACOTAR. We are double fisting a book series.
Sorry, my brain is too sex stuff right now for you to use a term like double fist.
Okay. Oh boy. I don't know what I'm going to keep in for this episode, and I don't know what I'm going to take out, but I might keep that one in.
I don't know.
Let's get spicy.
Let's get spicy with it, dude. I love it.
Whatever. All right, everybody, thank you so much again for listening to this. Look out for the next episode for A Court of Mist and Fury. And yeah, hope all of you have an awesome rest of your day. And of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.